Welcome to Real Estate Exposed, helping people in San Diego buy, sell, and refinance their biggest investment, delivering you timely truths, exposing important issues, and helping you get into the right home. Real Estate Exposed.
I'm gonna make this place your home.
Here are your hosts, real estate expert Daniel Beer, top-ranked professional by sales volume at one of San Diego's largest brokerages, and his mortgage partner, Todd with over $2 billion in funded loans.
Good morning to you. It is an awesome Father's Day, and we're blessed to be spending it with you. We hope you have an awesome day, and we're going to have an awesome show. You're going to actually be hearing directly from one of the vice presidents of Fidelity National Title. We're blessed to have him right here in studio with us today, Brian Olenik. And you're going to hear about your ownership interest in your property, how it could be jeopardized by things that you typically are not aware of as a homeowner. But just ask everybody that's been foreclosed on or that ran into issues over the last number of years. They could verify for you that you want to know what you're going to hear from Brian. There are still also ripple effects that we're experiencing in the marketplace from the foreclosure and short sale extravaganza that we've come out of.
Yep.
And we're going to explain to you what we're seeing out there and how it's still affecting you and your marketplace. And there's a tremendous amount of interest rate uncertainty that we're still experiencing. It is driving a lot of the current decision making, so we're going to dive into that. But it is Father's Day, and I'm blessed to be here with two fathers. I'm a father myself. Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
Good morning, Dan.
Happy Father's Day, Dan.
So tell me, what are you going to be doing on Father's Day? I want to know, and I hope that you, our audience, is going to be taking a moment to just thank your own father, thank your children, thank your grandfather, and it's an awesome day.
Well, I'm going to be spending the day with my kids. I can't speak for the rest of you guys, but some fathers just take the day off and don't want to be around their children. To me, that's one of our greatest gifts is our children. So I'm looking forward to hanging out with my baby Lillian and my son Jake, and I'm super excited about it. It's going to be a great day, and I'm just glad you guys are listening this morning on Father's Day.
Brian, you want to give your kids a quick shout out here on the radio so they could tell their friends at school?
Yeah, so Joseph, Gabriella, and Piper, looking forward to spending my day with you as well.
What about you, Dan?
Oh, my little baby boy, Levy, he's only a year old, so he's not going to understand this, but Levy, I love you. Sweetheart, more than anything, it's Father's Day, but it's because of you, so this is also Mother's Day in my opinion.
This is. Shout out to our wives, too.
So let's talk about one of my favorite fathers. One of my very favorite fathers anywhere in this world.
Here we go.
Mr. Donald Trump.
Yep. He declared.
He has blessed us with what is bound to be months of comedy, joy, belly laughter, and just pure marvel at the unbelievably just hilarious things that are bound to come out of his mouth here over the next few months. What's your opinion on this?
Well, what I really want to know is the hair going to be running for vice president along with him? Because his hair is the reason why I think most people are going to vote for him.
Who is going to vote for him? Let's get real about this. I mean, are you actually taking Donald Trump seriously as a candidate to lead our country? Because if you heard his acceptance speech, which by the way,
his announcement speech, right?
Correct, acceptance speech. I'm getting a little ahead of myself.
Yeah, you think he's going to win already, Dan?
So the Hollywood Reporter has come out with a story that of his audience, which he had a very nice audience at his announcement speech, that they were actually paid actors at $50 a head to come out and cheer. To be able to collect their $50, they had to stay until the conclusion of the event.
Right.
And get their $50 at the door on the way out. This guy is, I'm telling you, he's going to provide. I can't wait to watch all the late night comedy shows.
This is going to be the Donald. This is the Donald at his best. I mean, come on, he's the self-promoter. He's going to self-promote himself. And I mean, I'm not going to vote for him, but I mean, he could self-promote himself all the way to the White House. I mean, here's a guy who's took a television show with a bunch of has-been celebrities and turned it into a mega hit.
And you know, the other, and I agree, right? He's a successful guy, but at the end of the day, this is going to be fun here. Now, putting the jokes aside, this is going to be fun here for a while. watching this happen, and there's no doubt that late night comedy is going to be that much better because of it. So thanks, Donald, for that. But we have a cartoon character here that we're talking about running for president of the United States.
Maybe Howard Stern will go next.
Maybe Howard Stern and then Donald Duck.
Exactly. Sorry.
This isn't a conservative issue or a liberal issue. This isn't Republican or Democrat. This is the fact that we literally have a cartoon character getting airtime on major networks across our country, running for president of the United States, who at his announcement speech took the time to list out all of the properties he owns, how rich he is, how he owns this and that, how much money he has made. He literally laid out like his financial statement of success.
But he's a self-promoter. I mean,
that's the point.
As we, the audience, know, as you, the audience, know, this guy has self-promoted himself to the place that he is, that's made him a multi-billionaire. And he's going to use this run for the presidential office as a huge self-promotional platform. We're going to hear more about Trump. We're going to hear about Trump cocktails, Trump houses, Trump hotels, Trump hair care products, Trump suits. We're going to hear all Trump. It's going to be Trump all the time.
You bring up actually a really interesting point. So
he's going to make a ton of money off of this run, Dan.
Exactly. So do you think that the guy I never actually thought of that, but you're right. Right. So just from a business standpoint, his campaign is going to cost him X amount of millions of dollars. But how many other millions of dollars are going to come in additional revenues from all of the properties he owns and from his brand and from his, his label, right? He's a brand.
I mean, we talk
and is going to come in regardless of what happens with the election. Do you think that he's looking at it that way?
If I was Donald Trump, I absolutely would be looking at it that way. And I think he's a smart enough guy that, yes, Donald is looking at the return on the investment. So if he's going to spend $10 million on a campaign for presidency, he's looking for a minimum 5 times return on his investment. So absolutely.
It's incredible, but so should you be when you're looking at any investment you make, okay? And so for that reason, because this is Real Estate Exposed on News Radio here, 600 KOGO, you, in effect, should be doing the same thing as far as anytime you're going to make an investment, be looking to get the most out of it. And one of the biggest investments any of us make is that big mortgage that we put on our homes.
Yep.
And so Todd and I, a couple weeks back, and we're going to do this again this week because we actually have never received so much good feedback on any of the reports that we've given out here for free to you, the listener. So we gave out last week, and we're going to do it again now. All you have to do is actually text us your name and email. We'll shoot it right off to you. It's the 7 secrets for saving thousands when financing your home.
And in this report, you'll also get a coupon for a free appraisal. I know a lot of you tracked us down after the show afterwards because you didn't get the phone number. So you can also find us on Facebook at Real Estate Exposed, Dan and Todd. But one more time with that number, Dan, because it's our personal cell.
Take this number down. It's 858-900-3368. Be like the Donald. Make the most out of your investment. 7 secrets for saving thousands when financing your home. 858-900-3368. This is a report that we put together. It explains everything that you should be thinking about that's going to impact the investment, the ROI you get back on your loan. There are literally decisions you can make which, once you understand them, are simple.
Correct.
I mean, once you understand them, they're kind of like, like
aha moments.
Yeah, right.
It's an aha moment.
It's almost like they're almost like duh moments.
Right.
Except for you don't ever really think about them. Most people don't. But really, that's what most good wisdom looks like.
Right.
Any time you're reading anything that really dawns real wisdom, it's that little thing you hadn't thought about that's actually going to make a tremendous impact. So again, we're going to send this off to you. This is our personal number. Just text us your name and email. The 7 secrets for saving thousands when financing your home, a report that we've put together for you. And it's 858-900-3368, a happy Father's Day gift for you. And so that's some certainty that you can take with you when looking to do the best you can. Where we don't have certainty is with the Chargers.
Oh, my God. Did you see that? Did you guys see that? Did everybody in the public see that this week? That the Chargers came out and said, don't put the new Coliseum on the ballot? Did you see that?
Yes.
I mean, that says to me, they're moving to Carson, people. We're going to lose the Chargers. We're going to be a baseball town. I mean, that's all we're going to have left. Unless one of us, or you out there want to buy a football franchise. I mean, we're going to have it. We're going to have a free stadium pretty soon here, right?
It's
so disappointing.
It's really a sad thing. And I wanted,
And Dan, you've done a lot of work with the Chargers organization.
We have. We've sold a number of homes to their athletes, to their front office, and but I'm just sad for this city. I mean, this is a world-class city we live in. We talk about this. Why, as San Diego, why we always make small-town moves in a big city like this one, in America's finest city. Sometimes we can't even put our stuff together as well as a place like Milwaukee.
Right. Well, they're talking about losing Comic-Con again. I mean, that's in the media too, with the Chargers leaving Comic-Con. We talked about this a couple weeks ago. I mean,
it's really something that I hope that we can somehow pull it out. But you're right. It looks like the Chargers are going to be on their way out. I, as a longtime fan, season ticket holder since I was about 8 years old, through my family and now through myself, I didn't really want to admit this, but it's looking like it's going to go that way.
It's a sad day in San Diego.
It is. But what you're going to hear about coming up next is directly from from one of the VPs, okay, one of the vice presidents. We're blessed to have him. He's here in studio with us. Brian Olenik of Fidelity National Title is going to tell you about ownership issues within your title policy that you are not aware of, that the people who got foreclosed on unknowingly were not aware of, and that are going to greatly affect your ownership position if you don't gain some of that awareness. You're gonna hear about that here on News Radio 600 KOGO, iHeartRadio. We're back with you here. Good morning. It's Happy Father's Day, and this is Real Estate Exposed on News Radio 600 KOGO. We're blessed to have Brian Olenik in studio, one of the vice presidents of Fidelity National Title, going to share with you a number of things that you need to know about ownership interests in your house that could affect your standing without you knowing it. Brian, good morning.
Hey, good morning, guys. Thanks for having us here.
So, Brian,
one question, Brian. What is Fidelity National Title?
So Fidelity National Title, we are actually the largest provider of title and escrow services in the real estate space in North America today.
Got it. So tell us about title. I mean,
why do we care?
Why do we care?
So here's a question for all of you.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but why do we care, right? Because my buyers, my sellers are always like, what is this title insurance that I'm spending money on? It just seems like a necessary evil of sorts that we're now just accepting, but we don't understand where our money's going. Where's the listeners' money going when they're spending money on title, and
why do they need it?
Why do they need it?
So here's a question I've got for you. You've been saving for the last 3 years. You just bought a home for $500,000. You close escrow on that beautiful home. You're excited. 6 weeks after you close escrow, somebody knocks on the door and says, "Oh, by the way, you actually don't own your home."
What?
It's a pretty sad day and a pretty horrific situation to be in. That's why you need title insurance.
So is that just some like scary hypothetical you're coming up with here, or do you actually see that happen?
Do you have a story that's actually happened?
We actually have seen this happen. So let me tell you a quick story, then I'll talk about title insurance. So recently, we were about to insure a property. It was in escrow, and the seller was buying this property. Actually, the buyer was buying this property for $1 million. And when we were looking at the documentation to transfer title from the seller to our buyer, something wasn't adding up. We looked at the document that conveyed title to the seller, and it did not actually look legitimate. We looked into the situation further. What had happened, the person that was selling the property, well, guess what? They didn't actually own the property. The individual,
wait, they were selling somebody else's property?
So this is what happened. So we had a seller that did not actually own this $1 million property. When they bought the property, they bought it from a seller that had forged the document.
So this went way back. It sounds to me like
this went way back. So this was over a 3-year period. So let me take you back. So 3 years ago.
Yeah. What happened during that original transaction? How did that guy actually come to think he owned the house?
So this is what happened. We'll call it seller A 3 years ago. So 3 years ago, seller A sold to, now we call seller B. Well, when seller B took title to that property, seller A did actually own that property. They actually forged that document and sold the property to seller B. Well, seller B was now trying to sell it to seller C. When we looked at that document, we realized it was forged. So our current seller, who was selling to our buyer, didn't even have the legal right to sell the property. They legitimately paid a lot of money for that property, but they didn't own it.
Was there title insurance on that original sale?
Correct. So there was title insurance on that original sale. So what had to happen, two things. Number one, the seller who was trying to sell the property today, when they figured out that document was forged, when we brought it to their attention, they had to go back to the title insurance company who insured that transaction. Not only did the title insurance company have to step up and pay a large sum of money to the current seller to make them whole, but they also had to get law enforcement involved and attorneys.
Wow.
The title insurance company at that point in time was able to step up, get law enforcement involved, get their attorneys involved, and ultimately represent that seller and get their money back.
So what happened to the original owner? There's a real owner on that property. So that person never knew that their property had been sold now three times?
That original owner, the one who legitimately owned it, they had no idea that somebody forged a document saying that they now own the property. And that's a very common occurrence in title insurance and in the real estate world.
So it was like an out-of-state owner or something like that? Or
It was an out-of-state owner, absolutely. So what we see is that a lot of times, let's say you're a real estate investor. You as a real estate investor, you are the target of fraudulent behavior. A lot of the forgers out there, they're going to target the people that have out-of-state ownership because they know that those owners are not here. So they're going to go after your property. They're going to forge documents to try and convey title to themselves. And it's much easier to do than you would believe.
So how did the new
Scary stuff.
How did the new seller or the new buyer, so they couldn't buy the house then, right? The new buyer couldn't buy the house.
The new buyer could absolutely not buy the house. The property was definitely tied up in legal action for quite some time. The individuals that did forge that document, they were found out. The title company actually did have to get the FBI involved.
Wow.
So there was some legal action that had to take place. The FBI was involved. It was a major case. We were fortunate enough to discover it because if that buyer would have wired their funds in, purchased that property, they could have been in a really bad spot.
That's all. I mean, that's just an awesome story, and really,
it's not it's a horrible story.
It's a horrible story, but it's an awesome story for a real estate geek like me.
Right.
Because I mean,
we like this stuff. This is the stuff that we get off on. This kind of excitement stuff.
You take a topic like title insurance. I mean, that even makes my eyes roll over.
Yes.
Right, but
Correct.
then you find out what's behind that, and I mean that'd be an awesome episode on CSI or some
or American Greed. American Greed.
There you go. That would be the right show for it, right?
Exactly.
Well, I got to tell you, our seller in that case, they were so happy to have had title insurance because if they did not have title insurance, the money they paid for that property, it would have been a total loss for them.
Which is probably a lot of, $1 million house. You're talking about a lot of money.
If I remember correctly, I believe that the seller in that case, they had acquired that property for over $800,000. So imagine, how would you feel? You spend $800,000 all cash on a home, and you find out you don't even own that property.
So
you wired those funds to somebody that did not legally own it.
So there was no mortgage on the property.
There was no mortgage on the property.
So that's how there's the rub too, right? No mortgage, so they can make things a little easier. That's why mortgages, sometimes people out there realize mortgages can be your friend. You're not investing all of your capital.
So like any other insurance.
Sorry, I had to plug mortgage.
No, you're completely right. And actually, like you said, there's title insurance, owner's title insurance, and then there's mortgage title insurance. But like any other insurance, when I walk into Best Buy and I buy a television and they want to sell me a warranty, how often do you out of 100 policies, how many of them actually come into play where they offer protection, or
you actually pay out, right? The question is how often
where you pay out, or is it more the type of thing where just the fact that you have the insurance in place already eliminated 99.9% of the risk, so that's why you're almost kind of getting, it's complicated to put into words, but as when you're doing a transaction, the way I would view it is it almost the type of thing that just the fact that you were able to get title insurance actually already eliminated virtually all the risks. So the benefit almost comes in up front. Is that an accurate way of describing it?
So you have a couple questions there, so I'll really simplify it for you. So title insurance is a policy of indemnity. What that really means is that it actually covers you and your family or any other interest your family might have in that property for as long as you own it.
Brian, I'm going to need to cut you off because we're going to head into break.
Let's talk about this.
I just don't want to rush you through that thought because this stuff is critical. Folks, if you don't want to run into a nightmare, and everyone thinks it's not going to be them, but think about all the other nightmares that can happen in life, and we all know someone close to us where something happens, whether it be financial, health, or anything else. Let's make sure it's not a title issue where you lose your behind on something like this. We're gonna pick this right up. This is News Radio 600 KOGO. We are back with you. Father's Day. Congratulations to all of you. Son, I love you. We all are fathers here, and it's just awesome to be sharing.
That's true. We didn't even give a shout out to our pops, right?
We gave shout outs to our kids, but not our
pops. Yeah. So Dad, love you.
Yeah. This being my first Father's Day as a father, I very selfish Father's Day of me. I was actually only thinking of myself.
Exactly. Me too. Me too.
So we're back with you, and one of the vice presidents of Fidelity National Title, one of the most respected companies in the entire space. And we have Brian Olenik in studio. We were talking about an unbelievable story Brian gave us coming into break regarding how hundreds of thousands of dollars can literally be protected against fraudulent activity or simply clerical mistakes. And Brian, let's pick up where we were.
I want to ask Brian a question real
Absolutely.
quick before. I mean, Brian, in the real estate transaction, the story you told us is pretty scary. So I guess one of the things I have to ask you is, as a consumer out there, I have the ability, and I'm assuming, Dan, we have the ability to pick which title company we work with, right, when we buy or sell a home. So how important is it? That situation, that the story that we just heard from Brian, if it was not a very well-established or a Fidelity National Title, which is one of the largest title companies, I'm assuming, out there in the world right now, or United States at least, how important it is, because I know a lot of realtors will pick their buddy who could be a title company that may not be as strong as a Fidelity National Title. So how important is it to pick a strong title company?
Well, you really need to pick the strongest title companies out there. And the reason why, in the event you're faced with a situation like we talked about earlier, the title company has to have the financial reserves to be able to step up and pay those claims. So Fidelity, we're fortunate. We're a Fortune 300 company. If you actually go onto our corporate website, you look at our SEC filings, you're going to see we have several $1 billion set aside in claims reserves. And believe it or not, we pay those day in and day out, because we need to make sure that should there be an issue and should you have a challenge with your home, we can actually step up and pay those claims. It's critical in today's market. And in the wake of the foreclosure debacle we just came through, we are seeing more title claims than we have ever seen in this industry. So the financial stability of the company and their ability to step up and pay claims, it is critical in today's market.
It's just Real Estate Exposed. So one of the things I want to expose is there's a lot of real estate companies out there that actually own their own title companies.
That is correct.
Right? And they're not backed like Fidelity is backed, right? You're not owned by a real estate company. Berkshire Hathaway doesn't own you. You're owned by yourself, correct?
Correct. We are truly independent. So we're independently operated title insurance group. And we're really fortunate to be in that position. It gives us the flexibility to work directly with our consumers, with our investors out there, with our realtor partners, with our lenders. It's a great position to be in, and we're really fortunate that we've got so many great partnerships in the industry, and we're allowed to do business with anybody we choose.
Partnerships.
Brian,
partnerships.
You're one of the partners in my business. Right. The Daniel Beer Group at Windermere, we send all our title business your way, and it's for that reason. But you mentioned a moment ago the role that title companies played in the real estate disaster that we had, from 2008 about through 2010 or 11 or so. Let's go deeper into that. How did that? What role did they play? What was the difference at that time between doing business with somebody like a Fidelity versus John Smith Title?
Right.
And the reason I want to bring this up is you might not know this, but it's estimated right now that in excess of 39,800 households in San Diego County are still actually underwater, where they owe more than what the home is worth. So we talk about, and we're guilty of this here on the show.
Well, you just lost, one of your transactions, right, Dan?
Literally today, I'm losing a transaction where we're under contract. The short sale is not being granted, and it's going to be foreclosed on, so it's going to the steps. And thankfully, we had another one today where we got a last-second postponement. So we're gonna. It looks like we'll be able to close that one. But this is still real, folks. There is still distress in the marketplace, and so we're as guilty as anybody here on this show. Todd and I talking about it as something of completely the past. But there are literally still over 39,000 households in San Diego County where you owe more than your house is worth. So, Brian, what is the role of a title company what was the role of the title company at the height of the debacle? And how do you see that playing out now with the ripple effects we're still feeling?
Let's call it a crisis, not a debacle.
It was an absolute debacle, my friend. Wasn't it?
It was a debacle.
For those of us that lived through it, it was a debacle. It was a really scary time. It was unsettling. I think most of you out there probably felt the same way as us, is that, we didn't know if we were making our mortgage payment from one month to the next. So it was scary. Jan, to answer the question, the role of the title company is really the same today as it was during the financial debacle, in that when we're in escrow and we're actually trying to close your transaction, we're going to be there to identify any of the risks in the transaction. We're looking for those forged documents. We're looking for liens and encumbrances, things that as a buyer, these could affect your ownership interest, just like in the story we talked about. What we're seeing, though, today, it's really interesting, is that if you guys can visualize a boat cutting through a lake, well, what happens, you actually have a wake that is left behind that boat. We are actually in the wake, and we're experiencing the wake of the financial debacle today in the real estate market.
Still.
That's really interesting because, see, if you don't know this, Brian and his team, they're literally going to do roughly 15,000 transactions.
They are the market, actually.
This year.
They're the market.
They are the market, right?
Yeah.
That's a very healthy sample size. So,
yes.
Your typical agent out there that you're talking to is going to do 3, 4, or 5 transactions this year.
Your list and pray agent.
Yeah. And if you're talking to somebody like myself and my team, and one of the biggest teams in all of San Diego County, the biggest at one of the largest brokerages in the entire county, but still, you're talking about a team that's going to do 110, 120 transactions this year.
And Brian's team is going to do 15,000 transactions.
His team will literally do 15,000. So the typical agent you're talking to out there and getting advice from and hearing from, hey, how's the market? What's going on in the market? They're not the market. When you're talking to me, it's a much better viewpoint.
But you're still
much more accurate.
You're a micro market. You're a micro market.
Absolutely, it's more of a micro market. That'd be a good way of describing it.
Yeah.
But it's still, it's a much larger sample size than 4 transactions, right? When we're going to do 110, 120, but still, it's nowhere near 15,000. So we have Brian Olenik of Fidelity National Title, one of the vice presidents of the company, in studio, where we can actually find out from you have a very unique perspective. What is happening right now in the marketplace, and how can our listeners take advantage of the knowledge you can share and the fact that Todd and I are sharing the 7 secrets for saving thousands when financing your home? This is the special report that we've put together here. We spent weeks putting it together, shared it last week. Awesome feedback. And thanks to also those of you that reached out, whether it be finding us on Facebook, which you can absolutely go and do, connect with us directly. All you need to do, we make it easy on you to connect. Send us a text message. Name an email, we'll send you the report, and it has valuable information that literally will save you money just by making some simple and smart moves. That number is 858-900-3368. That's 858-900-3368. Send us a text message. We'll send you the report.
With your name and email address, and there's a free appraisal in there. So if you send us that information, you are going to get a free appraisal if you do a loan.
Brian, how can the listener marry the information that Todd and I share with them, but marry it with the information that you can impart on us, that we're lucky to have you here with a 15,000 transaction just this year alone view? What's happening in the marketplace?
Okay, so let's go back to the ripple effect that we were talking about just a few moments ago. So I think we can all agree that 2008 through 2011 was the most challenging time in our recent economic history. So what we're seeing in the real estate space today is what we are in escrow, when we're insuring transactions, we're seeing a lot of those ripple effects come to the surface. So what's happening is during that time, people stop paying their property taxes. Maybe they stop paying their income taxes for state and federal. They stop paying child support. They stop paying spousal support. Believe it or not, when you're in escrow and someone is going to sell their home, when we are going to insure a property, we look at all those things. So the number one thing I think you can do is when you go to list the home, if you know those debts are still unpaid, disclose that to your realtor. It's really, really important. So Dan is here in the studio today. If Dan knows about that up front, he can better assess the financial situation. You can get better counseling and guidance on how to exit your property. So I think that's the number one lesson today is go ahead and disclose any and all debts that still might be out there.
It's going to come to the surface anyway.
It's always going to come to surface.
Either early or too late, but it will come to the surface.
And it has to come to the surface, because if it's not disclosed, believe it or not, those liens and encumbrances, they attach to that property. And if they're not disclosed, they'll come up at the last minute, and they're going to affect ultimately what the seller's going to net. But more importantly, to the buyers
it could also
out there,
it could blow the deal apart.
It could blow the deal apart. So what we're seeing today is, believe it or not, 20 to 30% of all real estate transactions still have a major title issue. And those are the issues that I just discussed.
So you're saying 30% of the 15,000 transactions that your company will do this year, you're talking about 4,500 transactions will have some sort of title issue.
They absolutely will. The thing is, we can address them. We can help to identify and mitigate the risk with your realtor partner, with your lender. We can still get those deals done, but they take time. And unfortunately, when you're under contract, and if your realtor's writing a 30-day contract, it might take 6 weeks to get some of these liens released or paid off. So we're there to help, but we can only help if the sellers and buyers in today's market are more forthcoming with that information.
So an interesting way to get that help, by the way, because, putting myself in the buyer or seller's shoes, you're not necessarily, calling Brian and having him help you. The way to most effectively align yourself for proper help from a title perspective and protection from these issues is to be working with an agent or working with a mortgage professional that has a great relationship with a company like yours.
Absolutely.
So, Brian, going back to the general market, though, you have 15,000 transactions you're going to see executed just this year alone. When we're coming up next, I want you to share with the audience, what are we looking at? What are we looking at as a marketplace heading into the second half of 2015, going into 2016? We want to impart great wisdom and value on you, the listener. This is Real Estate Exposed, News Radio 600, KOGO, and we'll be right back with that. Back with you. Happy Father's Day. This is Real Estate Exposed, News Radio 600 KOGO. We have three market experts in studio. Todd Pianin of Samuel Scott Financial, myself with the Daniel Beer Group at Windermere Homes and Estates, and our guest, Brian Olenik, one of the vice presidents of Fidelity National Title. Between us, you have in excess of 15,000 transactions. They're going to happen here in the San Diego County marketplace and in the region. So the question is, we're going to pack these last minutes we have with you with what everybody wants to know, what you want to know. Where's this market headed through the end of this year, and what are we likely to see in 2016? Get your crystal ball out, Todd. You're up first. Todd Pianin with Samuel Scott Financial. What are we likely to see?
Well, we're likely to see interest rates rise. Probably, my guess is September is at the next FOMC meeting, which is going to cause buyers to even have a harder time buying. So I think that we may see a slowdown going into third and fourth quarter. I think that we're going to still have a very strong sales environment. I think that you're going to still see we're going to still see a lack of inventory on the market. I don't see the crazy appreciation that we once saw, the 20%, 30%, that kind of stuff, that those kind of bumps are going to happen. But I can tell you that we are in an upward moving interest rate environment, which means if you're not buying now or if you're not selling now, you're not going to get the most for your dollars. So that's what I would tell you is happening. 2016, you're going to see at least 3 or 4 interest rate hikes. So it's going to be, the cost of money is going to become more expensive, and an inflation is going to come in, and that is going to change the values of the homes. I think values of homes are also going to go up.
Brian, Fidelity National Title, one of the vice presidents for the entire company. What are we likely to see here?
Real Estate San Diego, what we are projecting is single-digit appreciation. So to Todd's point, we're not predicting 15, 20, 30% appreciation. We're looking at 5 to 7% appreciation in home values. What we're still seeing in the market with the real estate community is that inventory is very, very low. So what that means is that homes that are well-priced, that are well-staged, and where the sellers are motivated, they're moving fast. So today, I think we are still in a seller's market, but also buyers have inexpensive capital available. So now is definitely the time to sell. I think it's a great time to buy. In terms of the next 6 to 12 months, we do see things flattening out. We do not see them turning south, but it is definitely going to be cooling down as interest rates rise.
To our basically going to be the number one agent in San Diego County probably in the next 12 months, but doing over 120 transactions this year. What do you think is going to happen, Dan?
I think we're going to see a little bit more of the same. from a macro perspective, I believe that we're roughly at the halfway point of the of this part of the cycle where we're seeing appreciation. I agree we're going to continue to see single-digit appreciation. We're seeing a lot of the decision-making being really propelled by the big wild card, right, which is interest rates.
Right.
So interest rates are really driving a lot of the decision-making where people are preemptively putting themselves in a position where they are getting into what they see as a long-term play for their housing needs. I see I see inventory remaining at a very healthy level, and by healthy I would say on a seller's market level. Less than 6 months of inventory is likely to stick with us here for, I would think, at least through next year. And the reason why is even with the rising interest rate fear, you still have so many buyers that are coming back into the marketplace because they're now getting out of their waiting period from their previous foreclosure or short sale. So that's driving a healthy purchase environment.
Right.
So because of that, I think that we're likely to continue seeing single-digit appreciation. By the way, that's healthy. Okay, if we were continuing to see 15 and 20% like we did a couple years back, that would not yield great long-term results. So that's where I think we are. Position yourself for that long-term purchase. I really think that is the smart thing to do. That's what I've just done for myself, because we could be in a very distinctly different interest rate environment moving forward. But thankfully, like I said, we have that growing buyer pool that's coming out of their previous foreclosure short sale, which should offer some stability to the market. And most importantly, when you're looking to finance that property, make sure that you're going to take advantage of the report that Todd and I have put together for you. It's called the 7 Secrets for Saving Thousands When Financing Your Home. And this is something you want to send us a text message, your name and your email, and we'll get it sent off to you. It's the 7 Secrets for Saving Thousands When Financing Your Home. This is our personal number to text us at 858-900-3368. That's 858-900-3368. And it's the 7 Secrets for Saving Thousands When Financing Your Home. Find us on Facebook. Have an awesome, beautiful Father's Day. God bless you. And we'll be with you back here next week.